Hello everyone, welcome to Think Africa's iVote series, part 2, episode 2. My name is Sofia Chame, I'm a project coordinator at Think Africa RAI, and many of you probably know me from moderating the municipal elections in 2021. This time around, I'll be moderating a panel discussion with the candidates for the parliamentary election of this year. Think Africa, in collaboration with Citra and Theokis Media, are bringing you this series as a way to increase awareness about the parliamentary elections, why it's important to vote, and also how one actually can vote. We've had we will be having 3 panel discussions. Today is the second one, and we have candidates from 5 political parties in Finland. These panel discussions are also available in an audio format in Harambe podcast on Spotify. So today I have with me 3 candidates for the parliament and 1 parliament, actually 2 candidates for the parliament and 1 parliament member. Naomy Hyvönen from the Centre Party, Ajak Majok from the Left Alliance, and Hussein al-Taee from Social Democratic Party. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think I'll let you introduce yourselves, and maybe I'll give you 3 minutes each. Naomi, you can start.
Okay, well, thank you. So my name is Naomi. I live in Espoo. I work there. I'm a mother. I have 2 teenage sons. And I'm a communication specialist. I work as an entrepreneur. I also work in collaboration with other companies. So I've done that for quite a while. I have also been working up until recently as a teacher through the city of Espoo. So I know that sphere of the society and how young people are doing within the society, especially here in the capital region. I'm a member of the Centre Party, and this is my first time to run for parliament, but the 3rd time that I'm taking part in elections.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Ajak? Richard?
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So my name is Ajak Majok, and I'm a 25-year-old dance artist, I should say. As a day job, I work as an artist. I just got a trust from Kone Foundation to work for 3 years on my project. I just released my baby book, a collection of poems that was written together with people black and brown bodies in Finland that I communicated with in order to get the book done. I also have a trusted position as a vice chairperson in Helsinki City Council, where I'm about to run after this panel discussion. And I'm a sister. I'm a big sister. I'm a younger sister. I've worked with children my whole life, so the children and the youth are my passion. I also am part of that. I'll hold on to that as long as I can. But
good luck.
Thank you very much. That's about it about me.
Thank you so much, Ajak. Welcome. And Hussein.
All right, thank you for having me. Love being here. I'm a father of 3. I live in Vantaa. My day job is a member of parliament, Vantaa council member, vice chair of the education board, the SDP's representative in Fortum, in the democracy institution IDEA, wider security network VISE. I think more than the titles, what drives me is the will to influence. I came here as a 10-year-old refugee, and they told me then that if you really wanted, you could become anything you wanted, and I did not want to become a member of parliament. But I believed that story or idea, and I think it's our job to make it even for everybody. I feel that the discussion today is going towards this ideology that if you're brave enough or if you're good enough, you can become whatever you want. But people always forget that people who look like me always start from a lower position because our parents may be coming from a different country, our language experience is not good enough. So basically saying that there is an even playing field is not true. And I think people who look like me being in the parliament or look like you being in the parliament make sure that our kids will be inspired and that they actually feel that it's possible. And I think that's the story that we have to send forward, as there are so many people who think otherwise at the moment and try to become and take the parliament, majority and become the prime minister's party and kick some people out and all that. So we have to be this force of change for the good, and Finland needs to be international. So I still feel the urge that I should be influencing all that with my experience. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I think our audience is mainly comprised of people who perhaps are not interested in voting and maybe not also interested in politics. So I want to start the discussion from the basics, let's just say, and maybe ask you, Ajak, what made you choose the party that you're representing now, the Left Alliance?
Well, I've always been into sports. When I was a kid, I was the fastest kid you could find. I would play basketball, football, whatever sports you play. And the thing about sports that I loved, especially about team sports, is you are as strong as your weakest link. It's a team sport. So you have to take care of each other. You have to tell each other when somebody messes up, and you have to cheer for each other when you win. And that's the mentality I have in everything I do in life. I love having people around me who have strong vision for whatever, but we are strong-willed people. And no matter what our circumstances are or what our skill sets are, in order to have a team, we have to have different people with different skill sets, but we have one goal. We have the same goal. And my goal of making the world a better place has been always there. When I was a kid, I was the one, like when you go to a teacher's room and be like, I'll knock and you speak. I was the one who was asked to speak since I was in first grade. So it's always been engraved in me. And with the politics, why I decided my team is, I was actually invited into politics by a social democratic politician, and then by I think it was from the Green Party, and then from Left Alliance. And then I just went around, I checked every party, and I especially checked their youth organizations. How does it feel like? Within all of these places, the Left Alliance youth were the people that we had the widest spread of the society. So we had the rich kid, we had the poor kids, we had the immigrants, we had the refugees, we had people who were disabled, we had the society in one room. And I like that. I want to be surrounded by people who represent the nation. But we have the common goal. So everybody can play their position, but we have a common goal. And I really like that. And then after joining the youth party, the first election I did in 2019, I was not a part of the party. I was a part of the youth organization first. And then after the election, I was like, I like your politics. Now I can attach. But your starting question about people not wanting to vote, if you are a part of society, you are a part of politics. Politics will affect you. And then I need us to believe in ourselves that first our vote matters and then our work matters. And nobody else can force you to do it. It has to come from every single person. You need to want to be a part of the team in order to be able to play the game.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. That was a very good answer. Hey, I'll give it to you, Naomi. I just want you to share what made you, maybe go back in time and somehow tell us what was your journey when you decided to join the Center Party?
Yeah. Well, my journey started a really long time ago. It must have been back in Kenya, actually. I never consciously remember thinking that I am going to be a politician. And politics in my country at that time were not very, very beautiful. And I was very young. But I had it in my mind by watching my parents, especially, both my mom and my dad, in their profession. My father was a pastor, and my mom traveled with him everywhere he went, and so did we. And his biggest passion was really being among the very poor people of the society. So in Nairobi City, I don't know how well you know the Nairobi City, but it's a humongous place with a massive population now, much more than it was back then. So anyway, I came to Finland 20 years old, and I was studying in the center part, in Jyväskylä, in the center part of the country. Very few immigrants, living there, but I still had a dream, and I still I had the values from my parents to promote and support people that come from very poor backgrounds or that don't have a voice, or for whatever other reason are not able to push themselves forward. There's always that person that is lagging in the back of a crowd for different reasons. And so that pushed me to study, political science. It was a minor subject back then, while I did my English philology at the University of Uvascula. Now, in 2016, I had an inkling that I want to continue my education, but I also want to learn how politics are done in Finland. And I did a study of the different political parties in Finland, their ideologies, and I guess I had to pick one. So I picked the Centre Party. That was closest to my heart. And with the Centre Party, of course, we promote equality and peace and security. We are wanting to have a diverse society. We are in a diverse society, actually, at the moment in Finland, especially down here in the capital region. And it's getting even more. And we would like to create a very equal society where anybody and everybody can prosper and can have the same opportunities. And it saddens my heart when I think that there's a very big percentage of immigrant people, also Finnish citizens, who do not take part in voting, because as Ajak said, you are in politics whether or not you like it, and the political decisions that are made are affecting every one of us. So very important to be encouraged to participate as a voter.
Thank you so much. Yes, I agree in a sense that this panel discussion or this iVote series is also to encourage people of immigrant background to participate and to vote and to choose any party that aligns with their values, not just
exactly.
In a sense, yeah. Hussein, same question.
Well, I ended up making my decision why the Social Democrats is that they actually invited me to a panel discussion about their Africa strategy. They had written a paper, I think in 2018, saying that there should be an African strategy based on partnership. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, so let me read it through. And it was okay, and then it was enacted in 2019 to become a strategy for the Finnish government being partners in Africa. But at that time, I remember I was saying, okay, well, Africa is a continent and a lot of different peoples, and it should not be sort of looked at as just one bunch of things, and it's extremely diverse. The other thing that I noticed was that it was much about what we can provide, but not enough about what the African countries can provide to Finland also. And it did not have these features where if we get a visa-free pass into, for example, a country X, then that country X has the same visa waiver that we should, coming back in, and that money should go back and forth. And I thought, okay, this is an excellent start. It's a good political party. It looks at issues from a partnership perspective, but it clearly needs a voice within, because it's the biggest party in Finland, needs a voice within that, can mitigate some of the loopholes that it has. And I thought the Green Party was excellent. I have very green values. The Left Party was excellent because I felt that there's a sense of fight in the Left Party, a sense of activism that I enjoyed very much. But I thought the the biggest role that I can have in terms of influence in this society would come from the biggest party, which was SDP. Now, why I wanted to go into politics, I have a master's degree in international business. And when I came back to Finland after I studied, the idea was that everybody has a fair share or possibility to become whatever they want. And I felt that people who are coming from different backgrounds, it could be a disability, it could be a foreign ethnic background, it could be a language barrier that is there. The idea of us all springing from the same position, it's up to us, is not true. So we needed much more equality into thinking, and a lot of that passive help that our kids need looking forward. And I noticed also that 46% of those who have foreign background actually drop out of school when they turn 15. So almost half of our kids are, coming and dropping out, and that was an extremely problematic, not only for the kids and their family, but for the Finnish economy. So I thought maybe for somebody who has an economic background, who has a diverse background, who has something to say, who has experience in peace brokerage in different places in the world, could become a positive force in the Finnish politics, and I think I'm well received.
Thank you so much. Let's go now that we have a bit of, your stories of why you chose your parties. Let's go maybe a bit deeper into the questions. Ajak, I can start with you. Finland, like many other European countries, has been heavily indebted in recent years. And in 2023, this year, the economy will slide into a mild recession in response to the energy crisis exacerbated by Russia's war in Ukraine and the surge in the cost of living. What can be done to make the return to growth stronger? What do you think?
Well, first we have to acknowledge that within the past election, the past parliament, we've had an intense things going on. So we had the pandemic, the war started, we have an energy crisis going on, and at the same time, the government is, like the whole world is doing a green transition. So we're going from fossil fuels into renewable energy. All of this costs money. There's not a single country in this whole wide world that hasn't been more indebted within the last 4 years. So those need to be acknowledged. However, when we talk about debt, usually we try to compare it to personal debt, what I think is problematic. Because when we go on forward to the next season, to the next term, one of the major things that we need to be doing is doing the transition to renewable energy. And now within the whole world, the countries that already started this work, like almost a decade ago, they're winning. We're lagging behind, and this will cost money, obviously. But when it comes to shortening this debt, at this moment, Finland pays about 1.5 billion, 1.5 billion euros in direct or indirect support money to businesses that are affecting the global warming in a negative way. We have to redirect this. On the other hand, we need to make a plan in terms of getting more people into employment, which this government has already started. We have one of the largest employment rates in a long time. But there's always unemployment rates. So the people with expertise and the people who with the workplaces, they don't meet. And I think one of the ways we can make this meet more is having better worker rights, so people will actually enjoy the work they have. Everybody wants to work. Everybody wants to contribute in some way, and we have to encourage that. And in order to encourage that, people have to be able to go to a job where when they work, they get a wage where they can live off of. More people working, more tax collections, and healthy people working, getting money for their families, for their kids, for their education, whatever.
But can I interrupt you?
Go ahead.
If you just said that this money that's been given to companies that are that haven't gone green, and now you want to redirect it to other things, and then you're talking at the same time about unemployment and how to make it better. So, but how do you balance those things? Because when you redirect it, it means that you're going to, maybe let go of a lot of people, and then.
Exactly, and this is why Left Alliance speak a lot about justice, a transition that is just. So by default, when we are taking down these these huge corporations that are contributing to climate crisis, we are redirecting that money to renewable energy. And by redirecting that money, there will be new jobs. There will be need for people with different expertise. So as people are going down from that, it has to be done socially justable. And within this also, we are encouraging people to lifelong learning. So say you've worked for 40 years in a company that sole purpose is to derive their money from fossil fuels. This can no longer happen. The IPCC, the World Intellect, is telling us we cannot go on the way we've been going. So while we go out of that, when we go towards renewable energy, and that will require people with some kind of expertise to transfer there. So by taking down these old jobs, we're bringing up new jobs. And it will not be like a strict, direct line, because politics is very complicated. Yeah. But our job as decision makers is direct the money towards the green energy and direct people towards the education and learning in order for them to transition to places where they can get a livable wage from these new jobs that we're having. Also, not everything is just like 50-50. We have a lot of workers who have excellent knowledge around this country, but when it goes to the working places, what is lacking is, well, we have to say, in Finland there's a lot of racism. What is lacking is access to those working places, or discrimination, gender, whatever. Our politics need to help people, expertise and people with workplaces find one another. But not a single job is being made at the parliament. What we do is legislation and directing the money.
Of course.
Yes.
Do you agree with Ajak?
Of course, some of the points are very clear, and I agree. But I think that that there are other ways, of course, that I would like to point out clear that could, help to pay the debt. We are in massive debt, as you pointed out, or as Ajak pointed out, and I think that we have been spending a lot of money in many places that are not exactly the right places to spend money on, or rather, we have spent a lot of money in ways that we could have done differently. For example, when it comes to mental health, we have a lot of, Finland is one of the highest country with, humongous numbers of patients that are suffering from mental illnesses. We have to find a way to reduce that number. We have to be able to find help for the patients before the situation becomes as bad as it has been over the years. And that is going to cut down a lot of costs that the municipalities are spending on patients of mental health. Another thing that we have to consider is that Finland has a large number of international talent already living in the country. And a lot of these people are either in the wrong job that doesn't pay very well. A lot of them are very highly educated people that for one reason or other cannot find a job in the field that they have been educated in. And then some of them are just not employed, they are unemployed. That, and of course the number of people that are Finnish citizens and without jobs. So finding a way to train them, educate them, and get them back into the workforce.
But do you also agree on what Ajak was talking about, transitioning and somehow redirecting the money from companies, that are not in a way environmentally aware to...
I think that has to be, definitely if a company is not becoming sustainable, we have to evaluate and redirect that money to some other company or to some other organization or sphere where the money can be well spent. But then again, there's a lot of decision making and planning around that because we're going to be having people becoming unemployed. One of the easiest thing to do is to have the companies train their personnel and get retrained into becoming sustainable. I don't think that any company would be wanting to lose the money that's channeled towards their productivity.
Okay.
Yeah. I will have the same question for you, Hussein.
I think why the food is extremely expensive at the moment. If you're buying a cucumber, it's around €2 a piece. A tomato costs €1 in the shops, etc., etc. So the cost of living is terrible at the moment, and I think it'll just get a little bit worse before it can get better looking forward. So injecting more money into the system is not the good way to go, because then the inflation will go higher and the food will be more expensive, while the sort of the people who are majority coming from a foreign background aren't the richest people in Finland, so they end up getting a little bit of salary that doesn't change much, or a little bit of welfare, but at the same time, if you're injecting more money into the system, the food prices will go up. And that's bad for the poorest people in this country, and should not continue. What needs to be done is that if you look at services, the services are quite expensive. I mean, people are paying a lot of money in the kindergarten to have their kids there. They're paying a lot of money in the health centers if they go there, 60 euros, 80 euros, 100 euros, depends. The medicine costs quite a lot. So by reducing the cost of services, you're not injecting more money into the system, but what you're actually doing is that you're helping people who are of majority sort of weaker backgrounds when it comes to the socio-economic background. Their money will be sort of better used to foods rather than services. So they're not injecting more money, but we're actually helping the poorest people. So I would start there so that I can limit how expensive the food is, because that's the number one priority. I think in terms of energy, we'll be having okay costing energy coming forward up until next, I think, December. So the next parliament, where I sit, it's the Economic Affairs Committee. We enacted a couple of laws that look at next December, because then the energy will double in price. So we have to be ready for that. And this is something that we can influence looking forward, but I think the energy prices will come a little bit down. But I think looking forward, I completely agree with Ajak. There are 70,000 new jobs to be made from the green transition. I think this is where we should go. At the same time, looking at green transition, producing meat quite a lot in Finland at the moment, and producing milk at the moment is one of the biggest sources of greenhouse emissions that we're putting forward. So helping these farmers producing green-based protein instead of meat-based protein is something that we can actually influence quite a lot. And that could save Finland €1 billion looking forward, but that can then also help, if it's done justly, like Ajak said, that help those people. Because a lot of the farms, 50 farms are closing now every day at the moment in Finland, smaller farms, because they're unable to sustain the business. And the farms that are mostly scattered around Finland, their kids don't want to continue the farming business like their parents, so they're moving to the bigger cities and they're coming here. So in that regard, if you're re-educating these people and giving them new options and new systems, new technologies, you might save the farming industry in Finland. But if you don't do it, then you don't have a farming industry. And if you look at the geography of Finland, we're actually an island, especially now because Russia's border is closed. So we, as an island, have to sustain whatever the future is going to bring forward. And I think sort of short term, bring the living prices down, and long term transition to a green economy. I think in 10 years' time we'll be fine, but this next year I think will be very hurtful.
I think we can go a bit into education. You were mentioning about also education and re-educating. We were, I mean, all of you were saying, and you know, there's going to be this new kinds of job, and people have to now be retrained and all that. But I mean, in OECD's, this Organizations for Economic Cooperation and Development report of 2022, you know, the education levels in Finland have fallen below average, and it's even the basic education isn't as good as it used to be, at least. So, like, when you consider that, I mean, what do you think? Like, how should this issue be addressed? Because you're at the same time talking about retraining others, re-educating, but if the basic education has fallen, or at least the quality has really decreased, especially, you know, in math and in reading skills, how do you address that?
When it comes to basic education, do you mean from 1st grade to 9th grade?
I mean that's because
Or the language base, or the knowledge base?
In general, we're talking about, for instance, re-educating people or retraining them. But at the same time, the education in Finland is, at least, you know, when you compare it from decades and decades, and now it's falling even a bit lower and lower, and even the basic education, not only the higher education. So then, how do you, you know, how would you like this to be addressed? In order to retrain people, they also need to have at least basic education also sometimes.
It is true, but obviously in Finland, within the last, I think since the beginning of 2010, there have been massive cuts on education on all levels. So not this ongoing government that is going to end now, they've done the most to try to put a bandage on the cuts that was being done in at least in my memory the 2 previous terms, where in my head they undid almost 100 years worth of investments in education within 8 years. The cuts were massive, and obviously it's going to show. If we cut money from education that, for example, teachers are dependable on having the security, or what is the student security network. So the student counselors, the healthcare workers, this body and the people who are helping with special needs students, so they're being cut down. The amount of kids in one classroom is being cut down. So one teacher has more work, more kids to pay attention, but the same amount of time, obviously it's going to degrade. And since these cuts have been done within 8 years, you won't see the effects right now. You see the effect after they're done. So now we're seeing the effects of the quite frankly said, the mess up of the previous parliaments. Because Finland used to be a country where we were proud about the education and the investment we put in education. And the amount of money that was taken off was actually one of the driving forces why I came into politics as soon as I could when I was 21. Because we saw it in real time from 2013 when I started studying, and I was doing a triple degree. I was in high school and I was in ammattiopisto. Vocational studies at the same time, and you can see the decrease happening where literally a teacher will have a book and say, we don't have time to do this or this or this because this is not enough money. I used to have 37 hours, now I have 20 hours. Obviously it's going to show. And now I'm terrified of what kind of healthcare workers that come from vocational studies, lähihoitajat. What are their skill based practical nurses, yes. What are their skill sets when a lot of their studies were done under they had to study via computer, where these are the people who take our blood tests when we go to the doctors. So obviously, it goes down when you take away the investments. I think what we have to focus on in upcoming upcoming term is to make sure that the funding of education from kindergarten until higher education stays on a certain level without depending on who is in the coalition of the government, because this cannot be under politics, because the country that we are, like Hussein said before, we are an island, and as an island the only way we can compete with the rest of the world is at education, having highly educated minds. The population we have here is approximately the population of one city in Central Europe or globally. So
one hotel in China.
One hotel in China. So the only thing we can compete with is knowledge. In order to compete with knowledge in these world markets, we have to invest in education. I went on a rant. I forgot your question already.
I think you kind of addressed it because you kind of touched upon it, because I was just thinking of, you know, maybe I'll rephrase it again so that Naomi, you could have a say, in a sense that, because now we're talking about the basic education and also higher education, they're saying it's, you know, the quality is getting lower, but at the same time, when we talk about, you know, redirecting money, redirecting this, we're expecting, you know, the government or whoever to retrain people, re-educate, but even the basic education level has really decreased. So how do you balance these two things where, you know, people's people's in general reading skills or in general understanding, even to be retrained understanding different theories, has really gone down.
Yeah. Well, I think that I have quite a different experience on that. I think that we still have very good education in Finland, and of course this doesn't speak for every single school, but the Finnish teachers have a very high education, and a lot of things are being done. Of course, I mean the resources have been very short, so that is not a secret. Teachers have been struggling with very little resources and overcrowded classes, and of course not having enough assistance in case of children with special education needs, and also having to share a psychologist, among several schools. So that's a common situation, but we have very well educated teachers in Finland that work really hard to give education, to offer the services to the students. And
what about what Ajak mentioned about, do you think, I think Finland is one of those countries where there is more independent studying and there is less contact, and that has actually caused also to decrease the level of the students' knowledge.
On what level you're talking? I mean, if you're talking about elementary school, I think that, for example, the city of Espoo has a very good organization among the schools, how the teaching is done within the schools, and the children are very well taken care of, and no one is studying at home. Of course, during the pandemic was a different situation, and of course older students perhaps in vocational schools, maybe they do not need that much contact hours, but elementary schools, the education is still very good. Resources are very short, so they need to be, they need to have more resources provided, that's for sure. If I remember your question, that it's linked to what are we going to do with the training and the future of people in career, or do you want to rephrase it for me?
No, I mean, you kind of touched on it, that, I was more thinking of how will people be retrained when the money that's being put into education is already so little, or it's being cut,
Yeah. Well, for people who are professional people, working people, and looking for employment, then of course training has to be provided, and it has to be specific training in the areas of their career choice. So an employment office, for instance, and ways that these people are looking for jobs. It has to be very clear what it is that they want to working, and education and training has to be provided for them.
Thank you.
Can I quickly, what Naomi was saying about the situation of schooling, I also agree that the Finnish teachers, the expertise in these schools are very well educated. But it cannot go unsaid that there has been a decrease within the level of education within the, like I said earlier, within the past, not this term, but before that, the past 2 terms. And now we have this, we decreased the amount of years that a child has to be in school, and with that came also the fact that people could study for free. So there has been investments done, but we just had a strike with people working in schools. And I don't think when these kind of professional strike, it's not for nothing. So we really need to understand where we're lacking as policymakers.
Yeah, well, for sure, I would say that teacher salary is very low, and there has to be an increment in that. The same situation with nurses and practical nurses.
Yeah.
Hussein, you mentioned when you were introducing yourself that you're the vice chair of the education board in the parliament. Is that what you said?
In Vantaa, in my municipality.
In your municipality?
Yes.
So, having that, can you say a bit
Well,
about
there
this?
is a study that parents who live in Finland are the #1 most exhausted parents in comparison to all other European countries. Exhausted parents produce homes where you have exhausted children.
Exhausted because of what?
There are many things, but in Finland we have high taxation, quite high taxation. And it's supposed to pay for a lot of the services so that you have an ease of mind. living in Finland. At the moment, a lot of people feel that they're paying quite a high taxation, but they're not getting their money's worth. And they're trying their best to get by. They're stressed at work. They're stressed with their children. There's no more contact the same way. Fazer, which is a chocolate company, just made a study and noticed that only 50% of homes in Finland actually eat together at least one meal a day. And this is directly resulting in how bad the kids are feeling at the moment looking forward, especially if they're teenagers. Because when you're sitting together and you're eating together, you're asking how they are, how they feel, what's going on at school, you know who their friends are. And usually if that's dinner time around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., then, you know, coming for that mandatory dinner with your mom and dad, and then going after 8 p.m. out, I think the threshold of going out is much higher than actually staying outside after school and then returning around 9 p.m. So a lot of the Finnish kids, and when I say Finnish kids, I mean from all different ethnicities now, they need to have that call back home, be with their parents, have that discussion, have that dialogue, and I think we're missing a lot of that. And not one sort of governmental or decree or something that the member of parliament or the parliament can do can fix this. This is a theme where we need to have a national discussion on how to return the power back into the homes, have that respect, have that sort of education on how to treat each other, having that empathy, feeling that you're cared about, caring for others. This is a theme where we need a national discussion. And I feel that there's a lot of discrimination happening in the ways that politicians speak, especially in the parliament nowadays, where you're putting different sects of the society, the poor and the rich, the blacks and the whites, this and that. You're putting them on each other, and the kids listen to these speeches through TikToks and others, and they go back to school. I had just a panel now in one of the schools where the kids were loving what a member of one of the candidates was saying against a minority of other people, and they're clapping for her. So I think we need to return to the basics on some of the issues. If you have children that are well off, feeling that they're respected and loved, you have parents that have time for their children, and they can take that time off of work but still not struggle with their salaries. And you have teachers that are well off because they have people that they can talk to and lean on. I think we can get the education back on track. And this is a theme that we need to talk to. There are political parties now that on the polls, they're number 1 and 3 at the moment, might win the elections. And they're talking about cutbacks on social care, on health care, and on municipalities, which means cutbacks on the schooling and education. If we are back to the times of the cutbacks, I think the damage that can be done in 4 years, like Ajak said, can be suffered for 50 years on, and we can't afford it. And I think people of different backgrounds who are coming from different places in the world should notice this at the moment. Go vote for people who are willing to invest in education and healthcare rather than cut from it, because those cuts will be felt, especially in that demographic of those who are speaking different languages. And I'll end with this. Just quickly. I'll end with this. Out of 7 children of African origin, 1 is taken by child services in Finland at the moment. Out of 7, 1 is taken by child services at the moment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people we have over there of maybe African origin. 1 of us could be with child services at the moment. That's a major problem, and we have to address it next term, because if we continue on this path, then we'll be losing a lot of kids, and Finland is not ready for that. So we have to encourage also those who are coming from different backgrounds back into the society and strongly. But that doesn't happen by forcing them or alienating them. It happens through investments and love.
Thank you. Ajak, you wanted to say something?
Yes, you said about high taxation in Finland, how people are unsatisfied. That I have to put this different narrative. I just went on a work trip to London. I was shocked. I stayed with the person who's like locally based, and this is what I do every time I travel outside of Finland. I aspire to stay on somebody's house to actually understand what's going on in the country, a local's house, not just a hotel or hostel. There's a reason why we have a high taxation in Finland. If there's a bus and it says it comes 5:35, by latest 5:38 the bus is there. The streets are mostly cleared. We have preschool, we have school, basic education, and then we have vocational education and high school education. A lot of these, and healthcare, and a lot of them has degenerated a bit, but also there's a reason why we pay this. You can trust that the country works. But one of the things when people talk about taxation, we forget is that within the last decade, the gap in Finland, the gap between people with wealth and people with not wealth has risen in a ways that is unseen. And this is what, when we talk about high taxation, and what the Left Alliance speak about is progressive taxation. So in comparison, a person who cleans places for work and a person who's a CEO, in comparison, they pay the same amount of tax. That's the aim. But also, we have to tap into the taxation of wealth. So what we're trying to do is, balance, even out the playing field. And a lot of things you were talking about are cultural things. Like if we feel like you can come to a house and you're not satisfied, your children don't want to speak with you, or you don't want to speak with your children, or you're angry all the time, or whatnot. These are cultural things that we have to have a cultural discussion. But when it comes to in the way that the country works and the taxation, in my opinion, if you go outside of Finland, you see how the country works and where the tax money is being spent. You can understand and you can value what we are paying for as a collective.
And when you say that, your example of a cleaner and a CEO paying the same, because now they're not paying the same.
Exactly.
That's what you mean.
Exactly. And this is where we need to tap into. And like Hussein was talking about, people who are trying to run the polls, and these for example, right-wing parties, they just want to cut back. And in their opinion, people should, a cleaner should pay more tax than a CEO in comparison, because the CEO has somehow earned more. But there's not a single company in this world that works without these low-paid jobs. What we're trying to do is bring them up, and that requires, by definition, the taxing the rich. Not only the salary of the rich, but the wealth of the rich. And this is a sensitive topic, but this is what social and economic justice means. Because how can you acquire wealth without somebody else's labor? And who that somebody else is? The people who are getting not that much money. Yeah. So when it comes to taxation, it has to be socially just, but there's a reason why the taxation is at the level it is in Finland, and I think it should be more just.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it changed now, but at least they were saying that the most richest people in the world can fit in one bus. They were like 85 people or something. So of course it also makes you question the system, not only in Finland but in the world. Like what has happened that only less than 100 people have.
If you're making if you're making 2,500 euros a month, you're paying around 25%. If you're making 20,000 a month, you're paying 25% or less. You're even able to pay 8%. So,
which is ridiculous.
So we have a long way to go, and I feel that it is very high taxation for those who have a very low wage. This is something we can influence looking forward, but it needs people who are coming from parties that are willing to do this job. And on the polls, the right wing is around, they're winning actually the elections, and the left wing is actually losing the elections at the moment. And it'll depend on us, what we do. Only those who are coming from Africa at the moment, they have around 100,000 votes that they can cast. That's around 10 members of parliament that they can elect or select. They are coming from their viewpoints, their ideology. They would protect them.
Now it's around, I think at least in 2019, it was 28% of people with foreign background voted. So, I mean, there's also
So 72% of us did not vote.
In that way. What about you, Naomi? What do you think about, we kind of from education, we went into taxation, and which is organically.
Yeah, for sure. Finland is one of the countries that you can clearly see what our tax system does for the society. Very efficient compared to even countries within the European Union. But yeah, I totally agree that it has to be thought through. The high percentage is causing a lot of stress for a lot of families and a lot of, you know, working people, businesses as well, business owners. I was driving in a taxi the other day, and the taxi driver who owns the company of the taxi that he was driving was suffering and, you know, complaining the whole time about the extreme taxes that he has to pay.
I think for our last question, it's like a speed round question. So you can only answer yes or no. And these are different topics that have been, you know, trending in Finland. So you can also say, if you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. Okay, so number one, I can start with you, Naomi. Finland's goal is to be carbon neutral by Finland's goal to be carbon neutral by 2035 is too ambitious. Yes or no?
I don't think it is too ambitious.
Okay. So
can I explain that? Or?
No, you cannot. Sorry. It's a speed round. What about you, Hussein?
No, it's not too ambitious.
Ajak?
No, it is not too ambitious.
Okay, good that we all agree on this. Responsibility for environmental protection falls primarily for decision makers, not for individuals. Yes or no?
No, it falls for, it's everybody's responsibility.
Okay.
No, 50-50.
Okay, Ajak?
70-50. 70%, no, 70-30, 70% on the decision makers and 30% on individuals.
Okay, yeah, okay. And last one, Finland should be able to close its entire border with Russia if it wishes, even if it violates international agreements. Yes or no?
Wow, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Are these tricky questions? Are they hard?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes or no?
No, it should not. It should not be able to do it if it breaks international agreements.
So no. Okay.
No.
Ajak?
Can you repeat the question?
Finland should be able to close its entire border if it wishes, even if it violates international agreements.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much. Thank you, our viewers. Finnish citizens can vote in the parliamentary elections, and the election time for this year is on 2nd of April on Sunday, and the advanced voting period is from 22nd to 28th March this year, and also 22nd to 25th March abroad. Well, it's actually in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
If you're
Next week.
exactly.
Next week. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for watching iVote series, and also for those of listening on Harambe podcast on Spotify. Good luck to you candidates.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I add one thing for the information on the voting? Is that okay?
Of course.
I'll just say that on the advanced voting, you can vote in almost any library you want on the advanced voting days between 22nd and 28th. So if you're bypassing in Helsinki, you're going through Oodi in the city center, you actually live in Vantaa or Espoo. You can vote for somebody who lives in Vantaa and Espoo, even though it happens in Helsinki library. That's fine. But on the actual election day, on the 2nd of April, Sunday, you vote only what it says in the paper that came through the post. So people should go and vote in advance, because it's much easier. It takes only 2 minutes. You go inside, you have your henkilökortti or passport. They'll give you an empty blank paper. You put the number on it, right? And then you put it in the box. That's it, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.